Not only did they start accusing Tariq of stealing, they also started openly insulting him. The guy couldn't put up with it and realized it was time to act. He quickly ran up to Richard and sharply, "This happened not long ago, and no, I don't know the boy personally. But the second I heard what went down in that elite little high school, I said out loud, 'See? This is what we mean when we talk about how they see us.' Let me take you there. We're talking about a private school. Polished floors, $4,000 tuition jackets, tennis courts instead of gym mats, the kind of place where legacy matters more than logic, and being black means you're either there on special terms or must have done something slick to get in." And in walks Tariq Monroe, senior at 17. Dark skin, sharp fade, walks like he knows who he is, even in a room where they hoped he'd forget. Tariq didn't have rich parents. He didn't roll up in a Tesla. He didn't need to. He had discipline. That boy had books in his bag, gloves in his locker, and a clock in his head that told him when it was time to work. Straight A student, quiet, respectful, but never afraid to speak up when it mattered. And apparently, that was too much for some people. Enter Richard Whitmore, blonde, football jacket. Dad owns dealerships and 2 country clubs. School loves him. Teachers giggle when he talks back. Principal calls him a natural leader. You know the type. One morning, during second period, a girl in class, white, cheerleader, all lip gloss and fake tears, starts sobbing. Says she can't find her bracelet. Says it was in her bag at breakfast and now it's gone. Says it must have been stolen. Boom. Just like that. No camera footage. No search. No logic. Just eyes on Tariq. He was the only black kid in the room. Didn't matter. He never even sat near her. Didn't matter he had no reason to touch her bag. Didn't matter the girl was dating Richard, who sat right behind her and joked that morning about how expensive her wrist looked. None of it mattered. They called Tariq to the office. The school inspector, white, mid-50s, red cheeks like he'd just finished yelling at a UPS driver, looked him up and down before he even sat down. "You know why you're here?" he asked. Tariq nodded, calm. "Yeah, I heard about the bracelet." The inspector leaned forward. "We're not saying anything yet, but it would be in your best interest to be honest right now." Tariq tilted his head. "You assuming I took it?" The inspector didn't blink. "We're asking questions." "Right, sure." In comes Miss Bennett, white, 40s, tight smile and tighter cardigan. Tariq's homeroom teacher. She sits down like she already wrote the apology in her head. "I've always thought you were very bright," she says. "We just want to help you navigate this before it becomes serious." Tariq didn't shout, didn't slam the table. He just said, "You think I stole it because I'm black?" Silence. They shifted in their seats. "We never said that," Bennett snapped, suddenly defensive. "You didn't have to," Tariq replied. "They said he could return it quietly, no record. That it didn't have to go further," Tariq said. "I didn't take anything." They called his mom. He said, "Go ahead. She'll bring receipts." He left the room with fire in his chest and ice in his hands. Because how do you prove you didn't steal something when no one cares about proof? But Tariq? He paid attention. He remembered something from breakfast that morning. Richard, talking loud, joking about fancy girls needing fancy locks, bragging about how light her bag was. So during lunch, while everyone was buzzing about how Tariq probably got caught, he walked up to Richard's table in the courtyard, straight up, didn't ask permission, didn't smile, just stood over him. "You got something in that bag that ain't yours," he said. Richard laughed. "You gonna search me now?" Tariq leaned in. "No," he said. "I'm just gonna show everyone who you really are." And before Richard could flinch, Tariq reached for the guy's backpack on the bench beside him, unzipped the front pocket, and pulled out a velvet box, the missing bracelet, right there. right in front of a whole table of classmates. When Tariq pulled that bracelet out of Richard's bag, the entire courtyard froze. You ever see a crowd go from loud to dead silent in 2 seconds? Yeah, that. Even Richard looked stunned. His mouth opened, but no words came out. His boys shifted in their seats like they wanted to disappear into the concrete. Tariq just stood there, holding the velvet box like a damn receipt. The proof, the truth, the thing none of them thought he'd be smart or bold enough to find. He didn't yell. He didn't throw it. He just said loud and clear, "I don't need to steal, but now we all know who does." And then he dropped the box on the table, turned around, and walked back inside like a man who knew the school owed him a whole lot more than an apology. By the time the administration caught up, the video had already hit 3 student group chats. Someone had caught the whole thing: the bag, the bracelet, the line, everything. They tried to spin it, of course. The inspector called Tariq back in, this time with the principal and Ms. Bennett both sitting across from him. "We've reviewed the footage," the principal said, sounding real careful now. "It seems this was a misunderstanding." Tariq blinked. A misunderstanding is when 2 people bump into each other in the hallway. This was a setup. Miss Bennett tried to smile again, all fake and nervous. "Let's not use such strong words." Tariq leaned forward. "You looked me in the face and decided I was guilty. You never even questioned the kid sitting behind her. You didn't ask who else touched her bag. You just assumed." He paused. "Would you have done the same if I looked like Richard?" Nobody answered, because the answer was obvious, and that's what made it worse. The principal said they'd review policies, that they were deeply sorry for the emotional distress, said Tariq showed commendable maturity. But it wasn't enough, because Tariq didn't just want their apology, he wanted their accountability, and he got it. The school was forced to send a message to all parents, one of those classic "we value equity and inclusion" emails. But this time, it wasn't just fluff, because students were already talking, staff were whispering, and a few parents, they were pissed, not at Tariq, but at the administration for jumping to conclusions. As for Richard, he didn't get expelled, but his dad had to come in for a meeting. And after that, Richard disappeared from varsity football, lost his captain patch, his locker moved, his presence shrank, and every time Tariq walked into a room, Richard kept his eyes down. Funny how fast confidence fades when the lie don't work anymore. And the girl? She apologized. Kind of. More like sorry you had to go through that, than sorry I assumed you were a thief. But Tariq wasn't looking for her approval, because he already proved what needed proving, not just to them, to everyone. That you can be calm and still be dangerous. That you can be silent and still be strategic. That when you're black in a place that never wanted you there to begin with, sometimes you gotta outthink, outmaneuver, and outshine the hate. And that's what he did. He didn't just clear his name. He burned the blueprint they used to paint him as the villain. From that day on, things were different. Not perfect, not fixed, but different. Teachers paid closer attention. Black students walked taller. And Tariq? He wasn't just a name on the roll sheet anymore. He was a symbol. That maybe this place wasn't as untouchable as it thought. That maybe, just maybe, the kid they tried to turn into a warning became the lesson instead. They tried to reduce him to a stereotype. Just another black kid accused. Just another name they could whisper about and forget by next semester. But Tariq? He turned that lie into a legacy. Because here's what they didn't plan for. They didn't plan for him to stay calm. They didn't plan for him to think smarter. They didn't plan for him to have proof. And they damn sure didn't plan for him to walk away with the entire school watching and winning. By the end of that week, students weren't just saying, "Did you hear what happened to Tariq?" They were saying, "Tariq did what needed to be done." Black freshmen started sitting closer together in the cafeteria. White students started checking their jokes before speaking. And every teacher who once side-eyed Tariq in the hallway, they learned to greet him with respect in their voice. Even the inspector kept his distance after that. No more fake grins, no more tone of suspicion, just silence, the kind that comes when you realize the one you tried to frame now owns the truth. And Tariq? He didn't gloat. He didn't drag them online. He just got back to work. He walked the same halls they tried to shame him in, head higher than ever. He made the honor roll. Again. He got into his dream college with a full ride. And when graduation rolled around, he stood at that podium with a scholarship medal around his neck and said, "They said I didn't belong, but I never needed their permission to be great." Roaring applause. No one laughed this time, no one interrupted, and no one forgot who he was. Because when they tried to write him out of the story, Tariq picked up the pen and made himself the main character.